Ready to step off the map from the most hidden alleyways to the stories nobody told you? Uncharted Alleyways begins now. Your definitive guide and travel podcast, culture, adventure, and the world as you've never heard it. Tune in, disconnect from the obvious, and come explore with us. Uncharted Alleyways, your next trip starts here.
I want you to picture a scenario for a second. Imagine you are walking out of this, super modern air-conditioned Starbucks. You've got an iced coffee in your hand, right?
Right, setting the scene.
Exactly. And you step out onto this bustling, just incredibly loud street. You've got scooters weaving aggressively through heavy traffic, and horn blasts are echoing off these massive concrete apartment blocks.
Oh yeah, those blocks that just seem to stretch on for miles in every direction.
Yes. You are completely enveloped in this chaotic, high-stakes energy of a 21st century metropolis. But then you turn a corner just to, escape the noise for a second. You trip over this uneven paving stone, you look up, and suddenly you are standing face-to-face with a tiny, 1,000-year-old Byzantine church.
Just right there in the open.
Just right there. Or, you cross a busy intersection, and sitting quietly between two modern glass office buildings is an actual ancient marble temple. And in Athens, that is not some roped-off museum exhibit. That is literally just a Tuesday.
It really is. And it creates this profound, almost physical sort of whiplash for the uninitiated.
Whiplash is the perfect word for it.
Yeah, because you are constantly forced to reconcile the immediate, loud, aggressively modern present with this immense, silent past. And it happens all within a single footstep. It demands a totally different kind of spatial awareness from you.
And that spatial awareness, that whiplash, is the absolute magic that we are exploring today. We are pulling insights from this brilliant travel audio guide called Uncharted Alleyways, Athens.
It's a great source. Really well put together.
It really is. And our mission for this deep dive is not to just hand you some sterile tourist itinerary, right? We're not here to point out where the best plastic souvenir shops are.
Please no. Let's avoid those.
Definitely. We are here to decode the layers of one of the world's oldest continuously inhabited cities. We want to equip you to experience Athens not as a sightseer mechanically checking boxes, but as a genuinely curious traveler.
Because Athens is, at its core, a city of overlapping layers. The history isn't locked away behind glass. It is completely woven into the fabric of everyday life.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can go wandering off into the quiet, uncharted alleyways, we actually have to orient ourselves first.
Yeah.
We need to look at the giants in the room.
The monumental anchors, yeah. Because you simply cannot grasp the layout or the geography or frankly, the psychological weight of Athens without first confronting the structures that have literally been watching over the basin for 25 centuries.
Right.
They dictate everything from the skyline to the way the city's roads have evolved over time.
And the absolute king of that skyline, obviously, is the Acropolis, which is crowned by the Parthenon. And, you might be hearing ancient ruins and immediately thinking of, boring middle school field trips.
Which is a tragedy, but understandable.
Right. But the guide makes a critical point here. Even if you have studied 1,000 photographs in history books, nothing prepares you for the sheer physical scale of it when you're actually standing at the base. But, and this is a big, but there is a very specific strategy to seeing it. You don't just roll up at noon on a whim.
Oh man, you would deeply regret it if you did.
Yeah, it sounds like a nightmare.
It is. The guidance here is strictly tactical.
Right.
You have to go early. And there are 3 specific mechanisms at play for why this matters so much.
Lay them out.
First, visually, the morning light hits that ancient marble at a lower angle. It illuminates the natural variations in the stone before the harsh midday sun basically just flattens everything out.
Oh, that makes sense for photos, for sure.
Exactly. Second, you beat the cruise ship crowds. They tend to swarm the hill by 10 a.m. But third, and honestly most importantly, you beat the heat.
Which is no joke in Greece.
It's brutal. Climbing the Acropolis is an exposed, physically demanding trek up slippery ancient marble. You need to give yourself the physiological comfort to actually appreciate the engineering feats of the 5th century BC rather than just, surviving the hike.
That makes total sense. You want to actually have the mental bandwidth to absorb the history, not just pant and look for shade. And once you've taken in that view from the top, the guide suggests you head just below the hill to the Acropolis Museum.
Yes, which is stunning.
It's this beautifully sleek, ultra-modern building, but the detail I honestly cannot stop thinking about is the glass floor.
Oh, the glass floor is incredible.
Right, you walk inside this climate-controlled, totally contemporary structure, and right beneath your feet, through structural glass, you are looking straight down into an active archaeological excavation.
It's an entire ancient Athenian neighborhood just sitting there.
Exactly. It's like walking through Athens is like exploring a double-exposed photograph.
Yeah.
You've got modern apartment blocks layered directly on top of ancient temples, and this museum literally builds that double exposure right into its architecture.
What's fascinating here is how that glass floor serves as a literal and metaphorical bridge. I mean, you are standing in the present, but you're looking down at the foundations of ancient homes, streets, bathhouses.
You can see the actual plumbing, basically.
Yeah. It fundamentally changes your perspective on the city's timeline. It visually proves that the city didn't die and just become some static museum. It just kept building upward. Generation after generation simply layered their lives over the ruins of the last.
It just kept building. I love that. And you really feel that deeply lived-in kind of messy history when you walk over to the Ancient Agora.
Oh, the Agora is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, because this is the public square, right? The absolute core of civic life.
Right.
And the guide paints this incredible picture. This is the exact geographical spot where a merchant would be aggressively haggling over the price of like a basket of figs, or maybe some fermented fish.
Probably both.
Probably both. And maybe 10 feet away, Socrates was irritating people by debating the nature of politics and human existence.
Which is just wild to think about. It beautifully democratizes the history, I think. We have this tendency to put ancient philosophers on a pedestal, right?
Totally.
We imagine them walking in these pristine, silent marble halls, totally disconnected from the real world. But the Agora forces us to realize that their profound ideas were born in the middle of a noisy, smelly, bustling marketplace.
That's so true.
History just feels startlingly personal when you understand that these profound philosophical breakthroughs and, the mundane tasks of grocery shopping shared the exact same dirt.
The exact same dirt. Man, I love that phrasing. Now, on the flip side of that very relatable human scale, you have the Temple of Olympian Zeus.
Right, which is anything but human scale.
Exactly. Only a handful of the original columns are still standing today, but they are absolutely massive. It is just this raw display of ancient ambition. The guide says it's almost intimidating just to stand next to one.
Well, it was explicitly designed to be intimidating. It was a statement of raw power and devotion that took, frankly, centuries to actually complete.
Oh.
Yeah. And if you want to fully comprehend the scale of all these monuments we've talked about, the Acropolis, the Agora, the Temple of Zeus, the guide suggests ending this broader orientation phase at Mount Lycabettus.
Right, which is the highest point in the city center. You can hike up through the pine trees if you want, or if you want to save your legs after the Acropolis, you can ride the funicular railway.
Which is highly recommended.
Yeah, it's this neat little cable-driven cliff railway that literally pulls you up through a tunnel inside the mountain. And the goal is to time it so you get to the top just before sunset.
The view is unbeatable.
You look down and see the Acropolis sitting like a raised island in this endless, vast sea of white buildings that just stretch all the way to the blue waters of the Aegean Sea.
It provides the ultimate macro view of the basin. But having established that immense grand ambition of ancient Athens, we actually need to pivot now.
Okay, where are we going?
Well, living in the shadow of all that massive, intimidating ancient ambition actually takes a psychological toll on a city. You cannot understand the true soul of Athens just by staring at its largest, most famous buildings. We have to look at the intimate, quiet corners that exist as an architectural escape hatch from the monuments.
Which brings us to the hidden villages within the city. And I want to start with Anafiotika. The guide describes this as a tiny neighborhood tucked right beneath the Acropolis.
It's a gorgeous little spot.
It looks like it was teleported directly from a Cycladic island, meaning it features that iconic, minimalist, cube-like white architecture you'd expect to see in the middle of the Aegean Sea. Whitewashed houses, bright blue doors, tiny winding alleyways spilling over with bougainvillea.
It's very postcard perfect.
It is, but wait, I have to push back on this framing for a second.
Oh.
Is Anafiotika really a hidden gem if it is nestled directly underneath the Acropolis, which is arguably the biggest tourist magnet in the entire country? I mean, how does an entire village hide under the most famous monument in Greece?
It's a fair question. But it is the ultimate example of being hidden in plain sight, and it's entirely due to human psychology.
Really? How so?
Think about it. When millions of people visit that area, their physical gaze and their mental focus are directed intensely upward. They are anticipating the grand columns of the Parthenon. And because of that tunnel vision, they completely walk past this intimate residential world right at the base of the rock.
Oh, wow. They just look right over it.
Exactly. But the actual why behind its existence is even more fascinating than how it stays hidden.
Right. Why is there an island village in the middle of a major city?
So in the 19th century, King Athon needed to build his new royal palace. So he brought in the absolute best master builders from the tiny island of Anaphi. These workers obviously needed a place to live, and they deeply missed their homeland. So they essentially squatted on the rocky, steep slopes directly beneath the Acropolis, which was land no one else could easily build on, and they illegally constructed their own homes overnight.
Oh, way overnight.
Yeah, and they entirely mimicked the architecture of their island. They painted them white to reflect the harsh sun, just like they did back home. So you have this working-class, rebellious architectural anomaly sitting directly beneath the most sacred, monumental real estate in the country.
That is incredible. They just built a replica of their home island under the cover of darkness.
It's a great story.
It really is. Now, another spot locals use to escape that tourist tunnel vision is Philopappos Hill. It's adjacent to the Acropolis, but offers a totally different vibe. It's full of pine trees, smaller ancient ruins, and these really rugged, rocky overlooks. The guide suggests bringing a coffee up there just to sit and watch the city unfold.
Yeah, it is really about changing the emotional pace. I mean, the Acropolis is a place of awe and historical heavy lifting, but Philopappos Hill is a place of quiet reflection. And if you want to shift from reflection to pure, unfiltered, vibrant energy, we look to a neighborhood like Psyrri.
Psyrri is basically the creative heart of the city. You wander in there and the scale completely changes, the streets are narrow, and every single block offers something unexpected.
It's very dense.
Super dense. It's packed with colorful murals, intense street art, independent leather workshops, live music venues, and these incredible hidden courtyards that you only really see if a door happens to swing open as you walk by.
What we are seeing in Psyrri is the ongoing evolution of the city. While the grand monuments represent Athens' ancient heritage, Psyrri really represents its modern pulse. It is unpolished, it is chaotic, and it is entirely authentic to how young artists and Athenians are reclaiming spaces today.
And if you want an escape that isn't urban at all, like a completely natural escape there is Lake Vouliagmeni. It's located just outside the city center down the coast.
This place is amazing.
It's a natural thermal lake, completely surrounded by these dramatic, towering limestone cliffs. The guide frames it as one of the region's best-kept secrets.
And the geology of how it formed is brilliant. It wasn't always a lake. It was originally a massive underground cave.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Eventually, the roof of the cave collapsed due to erosion, revealing the water inside. And today, it is continuously replenished by both the sea and underground volcanic springs.
So it's like a natural spa.
Exactly. That's why the water is mineral-rich and maintains a really comfortable temperature almost year-round.
Imagine going from dodging scooters and traffic to floating in a warm volcanic lake under limestone cliffs in the span of like a single bus ride.
It's quite the contrast.
It is. But, exploring all these incredibly diverse areas builds an enormous appetite. And if you look at the culinary anthropology of the region, eating in Athens is not just a utilitarian act. It is not just about fueling up for the next museum.
Far from it. The underlying philosophy of Greek food is rooted in the concept of philoxenia, which basically translates to the love of strangers or deep hospitality.
Philoxenia.
Right. In ancient times, surviving in a harsh, rocky, mountainous landscape made communal eating not just a nice idea, but a biological and social necessity. You shared your resources to survive.
That makes a lot of sense.
And that DNA is still present. Meals are meant to be shared events. The conversation happening around the table matters just as much as the ingredients on the plate.
And to experience that true communal hospitality, the guide strongly steers us away from the flashy, laminated menus of the tourist traps.
Yes. Avoid the photos of food on the menu.
Exactly. It steers us toward places deeply rooted in tradition. Take a spot like Tocatialo. It's located right near the Acropolis, which is prime tourist territory, but it operates like a local institution. There is no fuss, just incredibly generous portions of homemade Greek classics.
It's the real deal.
And then there is Deporto. This place sounds almost mythical. It is tucked beneath street level in a basement with absolutely no sign on the door.
I love places like that.
Right. The guide says it looks entirely untouched by time with huge wine barrels just lining the walls. They take the most elemental, simple ingredients, chickpeas, fresh fish, local olive oil, and turn them into unforgettable meals.
It relies entirely on the mastery of simplicity.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. You contrast the quiet, underground, almost monastic simplicity of Deporto with the absolute sensory explosion of the Varvakios Central Market.
Oh man, the Varvakios market isn't a grocery store. It's basically a high-speed, high-stakes stock exchange for food.
That is the perfect way to describe it. It's wonderfully chaotic.
Yep.
Vendors are just shouting over each other. Prices for fresh fish fluctuate by the hour depending on the catch.
It's a very dynamic environment.
Very. Butchers are carving meat right in front of you. You've got mountains of local feta and Graviera cheeses, massive sacks of spices, fresh herbs and olives in literally every color imaginable. You have to be assertive just to walk through the aisles.
You do, and this vast culinary spectrum extends seamlessly into the modern era too. The guide highlights places like Vrulko Seaside, where you can get Michelin-starred, beautifully prepared fresh seafood right on the marina.
Fancy.
Yeah. Or Nolan, which offers modern cuisine by blending hyperlocal Greek ingredients with Asian and international influences. It just proves that Athenian food is deeply respectful of its ancient past, but it isn't trapped by it.
And we absolutely cannot talk about food without talking about everyday street food. You don't always need a 3-hour sit-down meal.
Sure.
The guide insists on hitting up the neighborhood bakeries. You're walking around and you grab a warm cheese pie or fresh spanakopita, which, for anyone who hasn't had it, is this incredibly flaky, savory pastry filled with spinach, feta cheese, and herbs.
So good. So good. And for a sweet treat, loukoumades. These are warm, bite-sized dough balls that are deep-fried and completely drenched in honey and cinnamon.
Physically impossible to eat just one, as the guide rightly notes.
Absolutely impossible.
But you also have to factor in what universally accompanies all this food, which is the Greek coffee culture.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be very clear here. This is not the American model of grabbing a paper cup to go while sprinting to a morning meeting.
No, definitely not. You order a freddo espresso, which is a double espresso, sweetened to your liking, vigorously shaken with ice until it's thick and frothy, and you sit outside.
You just sit.
You just sit there, sip slowly, and people watch.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this lingering coffee culture reflects a society that fundamentally values presence over productivity.
Right.
It is a deliberate cultural choice to slow down.
I love that.
When you sit for an hour with a freddo espresso, you aren't wasting time or taking a break from your day. You are actively participating in the rhythm of the city. Participating in the rhythm, that's a great framing. But, to truly enjoy all this food and have the energy to find these hidden gems, you need a smart home base.
You definitely do.
You need a practical understanding of how the city operates on a daily basis. So let's get into the reality check. Where to stay and what to watch out for.
Because a poorly chosen home base, or a lack of situational awareness, can completely derail your ability to enjoy any of the things we've just discussed.
Exactly. So the guide breaks down the neighborhoods for different types of travelers.
Yeah.
If it's your very first time and you want charm and walkability, Plaka is the recommendation. It's right next to all the major attractions.
Very convenient.
Yeah. If you want vibrant energy, rooftop bars, and excellent metro access, you go to Monastiraki. If you want upscale, like boutique hotels, designer shopping, tree-lined streets, that's Kolonaki. And if you are extending your stay and want a coastal vibe, you spend time on the Athens Riviera.
Lots of good options.
But I have to ask you, so what does this all mean for the traveler who hates the beaten path? If you had to pick one neighborhood for someone who avoids tourist traps, like the plague, but still wants to be close to the action, where are you sending them?
Based on the guide's breakdown, Kukaki is the strategic choice. It provides a fascinating balance.
Wait, I have to challenge that, actually.
Okay, go ahead.
Kukaki is located right next to the Acropolis. If it is that close to the biggest tourist site, isn't there a huge risk of it just being another crowded tourist trap? How does a residential neighborhood handle that kind of proximity without losing its soul?
It's a great question, and it really comes down to zoning and local habits. Kukaki remains deeply residential because it lacks the massive, pedestrianized commercial avenues that Plaka has. Yeah, it is filled with narrow streets, local hardware stores, elementary schools, and authentic independent cafes that cater to the people who actually live in those apartments. Geographically, it is close enough that you can walk to the monuments, but psychologically, the tourists just don't wander deeply into its grid because there aren't obvious souvenir shops drawing them in.
That makes a ton of sense. You get the local flavor without sacrificing convenience.
Exactly. The lack of commercial tourist infrastructure protects it.
Now, we also have to talk about the practical watchouts.
Yeah.
The guide is very clear that Athens is generally a very safe destination, but you have to be street smart, specifically regarding pickpockets.
As is the reality in literally any major global metropolis,
Yep.
the friction points are predictably the highly congested areas.
Right, so Monastiraki Square, the metro stations, and the bottlenecks around the big tourist attractions. The advice is straightforward. Keep your valuables secure, use a crossbody bag, and do not walk around carrying large amounts of cash.
Just basic travel sense.
Exactly. The guide also mentions a couple of specific areas to be mindful of at night. Omanya Square has seen a lot of revitalization recently, but the quieter streets surrounding it can still feel a bit uncomfortable late at night, and parts of Larissa Station are also best avoided after dark, unless you have a specific train to catch.
It is entirely about maintaining a baseline of urban awareness. However, the guide makes an incredibly important distinction here. For the vast majority of visitors, the biggest physical challenge they will face in Athens is not crime of any kind.
It's the heat. If you're someone who hates the 95-degree heat, you're probably wondering how anyone survives this without hiding in an air-conditioned hotel all day long.
The summer heat is the real adversary. The Mediterranean sun reflecting off all that concrete and marble creates a really intense microclimate.
The mandate from the guide is non-negotiable on this. You must carry water everywhere. You must wear sunscreen, and you really need to restrict heavy outdoor sightseeing to the early mornings or the evenings.
Which brings us right back to that concept of the city's rhythm. Adapting to the heat is not just a health and safety measure, it is actually the most authentic way to live like an Athenian.
Yeah, because they're doing it too.
Exactly. You wake up early, you are active and productive in the morning, you retreat during the oppressive midday heat to rest, eat a long lunch, or just linger in a shaded cafe. And then you emerge again late in the evening when the temperature drops and the city comes back to life. You don't try to fight the environment, you harmonize with it.
Harmonizing with the environment, I think that leads us perfectly onto how the guide synthesizes all of this incredible information. They lay out this vision of the perfect day in Athens, and it genuinely plays like a beautifully shot movie in your mind.
It really manages to connect all the disparate architectural, culinary, and historical layers we've discussed into a single cohesive narrative flow.
Let's walk through it. It starts before sunrise. You're grabbing a strong coffee and a warm cheese pie from a neighborhood bakery. Then you head straight up to the Acropolis to beat the heat, watching that early morning light hit the marble columns.
Perfect start.
From there, you descend and deliberately lose yourself, wandering through the bright, winding, cycladic alleyways of Anafiotika. For lunch, you find a hidden family-run taverna in Kukaki for grilled souvlaki, crusty bread, and heavy pours of local olive oil.
Notice the intentional pacing there. Immense historical awe, followed by intimate neighborhood wandering, followed by communal rest and nourishment.
Yes, the flow is so good. Then the afternoon is dedicated to browsing the vibrant artisan shops and intense murals in Psyrri. You grab an iced freddo espresso in a leafy square and just people watch.
Letting the city come to you.
Right. As sunset approaches, you hike up Philopappos Hill for that panoramic view of the entire city bathed in golden hour light. You follow that with a fresh seafood dinner at a local spot, maybe near the market. And finally, you end the night at a rooftop bar watching the Parthenon completely illuminated against the dark night sky.
It is an incredibly compelling itinerary. It flawlessly balances the monumental with the intimate. But this raises an important question, one that touches on the very core of what this guide is trying to convey.
Oh, what's that?
Well, throughout this entire exploration, the defining characteristic of Athens has been its unpolished authenticity. The text insists that history is woven into everyday life and explicitly states that the best travel stories happen when you leave the itinerary behind and allow yourself to get slightly lost.
Right, they emphasize that a lot.
So you have this paradox. If the true soul of this city is found in accidental discoveries, unpolished side streets, and unexpected conversations, does rigorously planning out a so-called perfect day actually prevent you from experiencing the real Athens?
Wow, yeah. If you script every minute to ensure perfection, you kind of eliminate the possibility of surprise. You might never turn that random corner to escape the traffic, and you might never stumble upon that 1,000-year-old Byzantine church sitting quietly in the shadows.
Exactly. The very things that make a city magical are the things you fundamentally cannot schedule on a spreadsheet.
But taking that a step further, the guide leaves us with this paradox about Athens, but I think it actually points a mirror right back at us.
How do you mean?
Well, if the true soul of a city is found entirely off the scheduled itinerary, in the accidental and the unpolished, it makes you wonder how much of your own hometown are you entirely blind to, just because you never step off your daily scheduled commute.
Oh, that is a brilliant application of the idea. We all suffer from tunnel vision in our own lives.
We really do. And that is the thought we want to leave you with today. You have to leave room for the world to surprise you, whether you are across the globe or just in your own neighborhood. To everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this exploration of Athens. We hope this deep dive equips you to not just see the ancient monuments, but to truly feel the modern rhythm of the city. Stay curious, keep exploring, and remember to look down those uncharted alleyways. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.